So I want to share with you an idea that made me better when I was a junior player that I think a lot of you could benefit from. So when I was a junior, believe it or not, I wasn't always mentally tough. I would be very emotional, and if I was losing, I wore it out on my sleeve. So very easy to look down 4 courts and tell if I was winning or losing, okay? However, if you looked at me play from 3 or 4 courts away, you couldn't quite tell during the point, but you could tell between the points. So I want to talk to you today about the two performances, if you will. I did this a few weeks ago, but I know we have mostly a new crowd here. So in tennis, the obvious time that you perform is during the points. That's what everybody thinks is the performance time. We know by statistically that an average tennis point lasts 5 to 7 seconds. You change direction on average 4 or 5 times. Every time you change direction, you run 4 or 5 feet. These are all the stats we know. During the actual performance of the point, it's difficult. If I'm watching, whoever, Billy play out here, it's tough to watch and determine his mental toughness by the time during the point. You could determine other things like style of play, you could determine how his hustle, but the other time between the points, and keep in mind, if you play tennis for 1 hour, about 40 minutes or more, 45, is between points, because the average tennis point lasts 5 seconds and 5 to 7, and what's the legal amount of time you could take between points? How many seconds?
3.
25, okay? So on average, for every second you play, you get about 3 or 4 rest periods. So it's not unusual for an average point as the match unfolds to go 5 to 7 seconds, and then there's 20, 25 seconds, then you repeat. So if you add up the hour, you really have more downtime than uptime. So what I want you to think about is not that the between point time is a rest period, which is what a lot of people think it is, but actually another performance. It's the between point performance. Between the point is when you can tell someone's mental toughness. So raise your hand if you've seen you or a friend or a teammate have a poor between point performance. It happens a lot, okay? How many of you have ever been trained on what to do, I'm just curious, between points? Okay, about half, all right? So the system that most people like to use is a thing called the 16-second cure. It's invented by Dr. Jim Loehr. He's the world-renowned sports psychologist, tennis guy. He's coached all the best tennis guys in the world on their mental toughness. He developed a system, and the system is how to manage your time between points. Very specific things to do between points. Now, how many of you, again, we're just taking surveys, be honest with yourselves, struggle with your between point performance? You think it could be better? Okay, I think a lot of you should have your hands up, because as I watch you play, it's easy to show poor body posture, you're hot, things aren't going well, and you're sending all these messages to your opponent with your body posture, like, oh, all that stuff is not good. Now, you might say, but Coach George, I don't want to do that, I'm bummed out because I just missed my 3rd overhead. So the feeling itself is not the problem, it's what you show. So you're saying, well, shouldn't I show what I feel? No, because if you feel like swearing and throwing your racket, you shouldn't do that. You got to control that stuff. So I'm going to show you, and hopefully coaches as we play today, and we're going to be asking you how you doing on your between point performance. I'll make it real specific and go through Jim Loehr's 4 little pieces. You can remember it best by PR, PR. As soon as the point is done, can I get Mika as a guinea pig? Because I just did this with her. Here we go, Mika. Let's clap her out. Come on out, Mika. I just happen to be working on this with her, so I know I don't have to reprove it. So as soon as a point is done, whether you hit a sweet winner or shank a loser or whatever, the first thing you see when it's being done properly is a positive physical response. That's the first P, positive physical response. So you come up here, shadow a forehand, and then immediately after you're done, let's do a shadow a backhand. Okay, that, boom. As soon as she's done, whether she hit a winner or not, she puts her racket in the other hand, she does some kind of positive physical response. You don't have to jump up like Rafa and do a punch in the air, but just something like that or something like this. Usually, that's P, it takes like 2 seconds to do that. Now you go into the first R, relaxation. This is when they're back here. You see the pros picking their strings, they're behind the baseline, they're kind of catching their breath. They're not really messing with the strings for that reason. They're trying to control their eyes because thoughts pop into your head through the senses. So if all of a sudden we hear a big crash over there, that's going to trigger a thought because you'll heard it. If all of a sudden you smell something stinky because some sewer truck tipped over, you smell that, go, whoa, and that would trigger a thought, right? Well, most of your thoughts, 85% of them, come through your eyes. So how many of you have seen this? Between points, high school match. The point's done. Hey, there's my friend over there. Hey, there, she's up. I can't quite tell. And they're looking everywhere. Their eyes are just totally not under control. All right, so that's part two, the relaxation. It typically occurs behind the baseline where they're catching your breath. And then you go to the next P, that's preparation. It comes up just before the service line. Maybe she stops shy just of the service line. She looks across the net as if she's going to say, 30 all, I'm going to do this. She's planning her point, okay? This slows you down. This is the preparation. Then the last R is, what do you think? Rituals is right up on the line. You do your bounce. If you were returning, you could do your shuffling or your going forward, whatever. So those are the things. So today, let's add something new. This could be a light bulb moment for some of you guys that don't know or never even been told what to do between points. But the time between points is not rest period. You catch your breath, but it's another performance. Just like, how many of you ever had a parent, while you're performing, they're performing? In other words, oh, gosh, did you miss? Nate, can you help? You know, who's ever had a parent do that? A lot of parents do that, right? They're not evil, they just don't know better. So just like you would want your parent to perform, even though your parent's thinking, oh my gosh, Nate's hit his third overhead in a row in the net. You don't want him doing that, right? So I tell parents sometimes, you're performing, dude. As soon as the match starts, your kid's performing and so are you. So as a parent of a player that plays tennis, I perform a lot. I watched her play a couple matches last weekend, and I have a definite thing I do when I chill. I try to be friendly with the other parent, and even though inside I'm like, oh my gosh, it's going to be a huge win, I'm on the outside like, So if she ever looks over, she doesn't see daddy over there going, oh God. You know, because that's just not good. That's an example of us performing. So buy into that. I want you to practice that a little bit today, and now we're going to do the next drill. Good work.